Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We have an exciting video today. We were invited up to Park City to test out the new Pinarello Dogma F and compare it to the older Pinarello Dogma F12. So I've got lots of exciting footage and some thoughts on each bike and kind of how they compare to the bike I usually ride, which is my Scott Addict RC. And we can even maybe compare it to some of the other bikes we've ridden in the past as well. So here we are at what we like to call the most expensive van in the world. This is the Pinarello van, and it is full of Dogma Fs and Dogma F12s, tons of different carbon wheels, you know, everything pretty much top of the line with the SRAM red axis group. So I usually ride Shimano, but it was fun to ride SRAM again for a little bit.
Oh, there goes.
On the left here we have Kirsten on an F12, and we have CR on the right with Pinarello Dogma F. So both top of the line bikes, both have the SRAM red axis group set, and both have wheels that are between 30 to 45-ish millimeters. So they set us all up, we got our positions dialed in, put on our own pedals. CR and I both brought power pedals so we could kind of compare our wattage compared to the bikes that we usually ride, which are the Scotts. So I am on a 56 centimeter Pinarello. It's the same size that I ride on Scott, but for comparison, it actually is, the bikes are a little bit bigger, I would say, than the average bike. So for example, 56 Pinarello and my 56 Scott compare more closely to like a 58 in a Trek. So let's get into kind of how these bikes ride a little bit more. I'm sure that's what you're most interested in. I think one of the things I was most surprised with is how stable the bike felt. It wasn't a snappy handling bike. When you turned around a corner, you really had to kind of lean the bike in to get it to whip around the corner the way that I'm used to. So not a bad thing, right? Definitely very stable. I think the best way I could describe it is almost endurance bike feeling, but with the stiffness of a race bike, if that makes sense. So the handling a little bit more subdued, but the stiffness is there. When you step on the pedals, the bike responds. Again, the difference between the F and the F12, definitely mostly a weight difference. From aerodynamics perspective, I didn't notice too much of a difference, maybe 0.1, 0.2 miles per hour. So not a big difference there, and that could honestly just be down to the depth of the wheels. On the F12, I had slightly shallower wheels, and on the F were the slightly deeper wheels. So that might be the whole difference there. I will say both of these bikes held their speed really well. So once you were up to speed, you can definitely tell the difference between a semi-aero bike, a non-aero bike, and a full aero bike. I would classify these as slightly closer to the aero bike side of things, which is really nice because they're not quite as heavy as all-out aero bike, but they definitely hold their speed better than like my standard round tube bike that I have just for fun. So big difference there from nothing as far as aerodynamics to mostly aerodynamic, but the acceleration was a little bit slow, not too bad. Like the bike is still very stiff, but a little bit slower, I should say, than other top of the line race bikes that I've ridden. But definitely a very good frame overall, and honestly something that you can just do a lot of miles on. People will really enjoy riding this bike for a long time, and that might be the biggest factor for you when it comes to purchasing a bike. Is this something I can ride all day for a long time? Maybe you're not racing competitively, maybe you are, but this is a bike you can just ride and enjoy all day. Now, I did want to get into one issue that I had with both the F and the F12, and that is the cutout for the water bottles. So as you can see, it's not a big deal normally if you use 500 milliliter water bottles, but if you use anything bigger, which I tend to do on training rides, or just when I'm out riding my bike for longer periods of time, I go for the 21, 24 ounce bottles, and you can see here the way that it holds the bottle and where the cutout is on the down tube. You're very, very close to having that bottle rub against your frame, and it's not a bad thing if you use smaller bottles, but if you use big bottles, you're gonna want to make sure that whatever water bottle cages you put on there have a lip that keeps that bottle pushed out further away from the down tube so that your bottles will not hit your nice expensive frame. The one last thing I wanted to call out here was the integrated cockpit. And you know, internal cable routing, integrated cockpits, everyone has their own opinion. I personally like them, but from a stiffness perspective, I will say the integrated cockpit was not as stiff as I had hoped or expected. It had a little bit more flex than I imagined it would. even comparing it to the integrated cockpit on my Scott, it just flexed a little bit more. But if I compare both of those integrated cockpits to my standard aluminum stem and carbon handlebar, they're both flexier than that. Like, you cannot get stiffer than a strong aluminum stem with a nice stiff carbon handlebar. Well, with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed spending the day at the Pinarello demo. It was a lot of fun to be invited to this and get to test out a bike that is honestly not super common out here and not super common in a lot of places, partly down to price, partly down to availability. But it was really cool to be able to ride it and just try something new. Lots of fun. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you'd like to see more like this, comparing some different bikes. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.